to ATM Blowout, and it's time to blow out from every corner of this country. And now, I'd like to quickly welcome the very Reverend Humphrey Nsirim. Good to have you on ATM Blowout, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Good morning, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
How's the Lord's vineyard doing?
Good. Trusting that He's going to guide us quickly and obey what He's asking us to do.
Absolutely. Welcome. All right, let's go.
All right, the first conversation we have this morning has to do with the Niger Delta Peace Front cautions ex-militants in the region against sabotaging or undermining Nigeria's economy. The group in a statement on Sunday, signed by Patterson Efemina and Onyem Philip, respectively, chairman and secretary, said the NDPF said it was curious and suspicious that those who benefited from the contract in the past are now the ones leading the campaign against it. He said, "We have observed the sponsored mudslinging and other veiled threats to the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited over the renewal of the oil pipeline contract awarded to Tantita Security Services Limited." The statement reads, "We are of the view that it is about time we stopped these threats and name-calling to pursue things that are beneficial to their country's finances and poorly manage the ecology of our homeland. Oil theft has to be called its right name, a plague on the financial well-being of our country. We will surely do better if we commit half of the energy we have dissipated on this issue to the product and of putting up a concerted front under Tantita to fight oil theft. Perhaps we need to stress the points here that contracts are not won by hurling insults at the awarding authorities on the pages of newspapers and those selected for jobs. The NDPF also commended President Bola Tinubu and the NPCL for their commitment to fighting oil theft. The group said it is confident that the renewed contract with Tantita will help to further reduce the incidence of oil theft in the Niger Delta. The group further urged ex-militants to support Tantita in its efforts to combat oil theft rather than being used by those who are bent on sabotaging the Nigerian economy." All right, so we'll take this straight to you. We're talking about militants. We're talking about those who are actually involved in the oil thefts and those who believe that they are right to be, part of what is going on. They're actually not being part of the whole management of what this oil, whatever is all about. So now, how do we expect them to, keep their cool when they actually have something they are agitating for?
Well, first and foremost, if we want to deal with the issue of agitation, militancy, and oil theft, we can't separate them because if you want to agree with me, it's the same people. But let's look at agitation per se. Agitation at this point, whether from the people who are speaking for Tantita or the people who are speaking against, asking the country to resort to technological provision to monitor theft. We've gone beyond the stage where you tell people to stay on the pipeline. I mean, now the AI world provides a whole lot of security. I mean, the agitators are talking about, use the technological means of drones and some other technological provision that they made to monitor the pipelines. And you don't need nobody. You don't need nobody. So as long as I'm concerned, both the agitators who are asking that every other person who are saying it should be done right, and the people who are awarding the contract to them, they are just on the same page. They are not different. Tantita and the people awarding it to them, at the long run, if you ask what would have transpired, what would have necessitated the deal, and what would have been the agreement before disbursement of any money, to baffle you to know, okay? If we still go back to the people who are agitating that no person should come against Tantita, and their statement, if you heard it, is very simple, that the people who are speaking against it in time past are beneficiaries of whatsoever contract or constitutional agreement that Tantita had with the government. So as long as I'm concerned, the same people just playing around, trusting God that one day the right thing will be done. And the right thing is simply remove men from that line and put the right thing on the line.
All right, we'll have more conversation after this on the use of technology to man the territory. But let's talk about this agitation for racial share, if you may. It is not supposed that we're all former militants. It's not supposed to be just Tomopolo, Epomopolo government that should get the contract. It should be everyone. From last year, thereabouts, when this was announced, this has been part of the conversation. It's been, Asari, So recently they all came out in their different names and called their names and talked about how they all want to be part of the pipeline security shareholders, and how this contract should be given to them. Before you have been a major part of their reorientation from their that was from Torres Beach now, 2nd October 2009, 3rd of October 2009. You were there when Atek and all of them surrendered and all of that. The bottom line of that was simply to ensure that the repentant militants get trained, become resourceful members of the community, and what have you. If I'm going to the presidential amnesty program. If that program is working the way it should be working, Reverend, why do we have this class of individuals talking about giving them racial share in protection of the pipeline? Is this the only job that is left for them in the whole of Nigeria with all the training that they supposedly have acquired? Some of them became pilots. Some of them became marine, went into deep sea divers and training. There are several things we were trained for them. How come they are now doing all of this racial share thing with no go agree? If it's not going to be all for one, it's not going to be one for all and all of that. What do you think is going on if the amnesty program is working effectively?
Well, first and foremost, I was part of disarmament. The reintegration, I decided not to be part of it.
Okay.
Now, my reasons were simple. When consultations were made and asking me to still come on, I have an issue. My issue is, who are the people on the list? Now, there's something that has to be said, and somebody has to say it. The reintegration stage was where the whole program was almost dashed. Now, why do I say so? The reintegration stage is the stage where people are supposed to be trained and given the orientation for why they are trained and reintegrated back to the society so that they will become resourceful to the society rather than continuing to be a menace, rather than continuing to be an issue to the society. Most unfortunately, most of the people whose names are on the amnesty list were not militants. These are facts that, I can leave you to go and get for yourself what's true. Now, the real people who were militants were sidelined, were rather paid 60,000 every month rather than given the appropriate training. For some who were given the appropriate training, what was the contract signed with the training organization? Okay, I give you an instance. I did a few things for Total, I did a few things for Shell, I did a few things for some people came from the Ajib angle, and part of what we did was a reintegration
in line
program.
with this.
Yes, okay. A reintegration program. It paid off. The reason was this. I wouldn't say that every person who went through our trainings actually went back to society, but two things were achieved. Number one was that there was a reintegration to their families.
Okay.
Which was a major aspect of achievement. Then the integration back to the society has to do with the person. but we provided training. But in this other case, people were shortchanged. You take, for instance, if I'm in the team or in the committee, not on the disarmament stage, the integration stage. Mm-hmm. If I am in the team and I have some brothers I want to help, all I just need to put their name on the list.
Even though they were not part of those who were disarmed.
They were not militants. And then some of the people who actually were disarmed, I know a few who truly were disarmed. I and Major Shehu, okay, and Dr. Gary, who was the lady who was in charge, or the woman who was in charge, you know, these people actually came out, but their name was not on the list. When you go, they will tell you the list is full. Who filled the list? So this is where, when you talk about the people who are trained and they became pilots, let's go back to their records. Let's go back to who they are. Were they truly militants?
Yeah, because, you know, a few years down the line after, you know, I was at that tourist beach. It was such a major drop. Like, these girls came out. I remember the Ateke Queens. I don't know what they were on white. Yeah. There were this excitement. They were willing and they were giving up their eye. It was such a big moment for the Niger Delta. And what I fail to understand is this whole stories around the presidential amnesty program. Is it that the ex-agitators, that's what they call themselves right now, you know, protesting against inequality in treatment and what have you? So from what you've explained, I'm considering the agitation that's been coming from their angle. We don't really know what is what. Can we at this point really say that this presidential amnesty program, that money is still being put into by the government of Nigeria, that is actually delivering on the expected valuables that we're supposed to get from this program? If up until this moment, we still have people who think that the only means of livelihood is to stay in the creek and guide the pipelines, have we really achieved the objective of that program for the number of years that it has been up?
Well, my response is simple. As long as I'm concerned, their integration rate until they receive the training, and after the training, they will be reintegrated back to society, given a place in society. I tell you this, the people that benefited from it were the so-called,
or are benefiting
are the so-called leaders, not the real people who do the action.
Could that be why we are now having this kind of...
That is the reason. If we go back for the few years that they've gone into this deal, which was last year, when they gave it to Tantita, I mean, they've been doing it. If this government now, or as this government now has also chosen to use Tantita again, what are you going to do? Tantita is given, if they are given the support, is a government support. Your voice is too small. You only make noise.
Why you hold that thought, Reverend Sirim, let's talk about this Tantita contract. We've looked at it from the angle of why are these people now agitating for share? Because this is looking like resource control in a different form again, which is what led to the militancy, which is why Yar'Adua of blessed memory, may God continue to rest his soul. The entitlement mentality is beginning to create a mess in the Niger Delta. But let's come back to what should actually be in 2023 when we talk about protecting infrastructures, national assets, and crude oil pipelines in the country. These of the community development committees, Joseph Ambakaderimo, said the contract is a clear case of arm twisting of the government to continue to dole out scarce resources to a few people who call themselves defenders of the people. Ambakaderimo said the government must employ the application of high tech such as drones, sensor activation and infrared beams transmitting to a base station that will trigger an alarm. The security contractors engaged by the government have not helped at all. After all, he said there are still cases of pipeline breaches, stealing of crude oil, and vandalization of critical oil and gas national assets. He queried the renewed interest of the ex-militant leaders who met in Port Harcourt last weekend, self-styled generals, when our oil production reduced over fiefdom, as the case has always been. He said we must tread carefully for government not to allow itself to be held hostage by non-state actors. Exactly what we were talking about, because like I said, it's beginning to look like resource control again. Like, we want this, it can't be upon Tompolo alone, and this is how the mess started until it escalated into what became the Niger Delta militancy crisis. But now this group is raising a very critical concern, and when I was reading this, what came to my mind was listening to the former Minister for Transportation during the security breach at the Kaduna Abuja rail line, where he said technology, he applied for about 3 billion for them to use technology, drones and sensors, what have you, to protect that, but it wasn't granted. And of course, afterwards, a lot of people were speaking all kinds of English about that. This is 2023. We talked about artificial intelligence and its impacts in security, particularly. Why do you think the Nigerian government is still considering doling out such amounts of money? I think it was in the area of 400 billion or thereabout, that contract for Tompolo, the anti-terror security. I mean, why do you think the government is having that kind of, there's still a consideration to renew that contract, other than thinking of how to use technology to man the territories, considering that in as much as Santita may have made some progress, our oil production per day, crude oil production per day, has increased. It wasn't what it was before they came in, no doubt about that. But there is still the issue between the Nigerian security Navy. The Navy is supposed to be manning this water alongside the NSCDC. Now that it's beginning to look like, with the progress we should be making, because the NSA came here a few weeks ago or thereabout and said we're still losing about 400 barrels per day. So it means that Nigeria is still losing one way or another. So why do you think the Nigerian government is not considering using the latest high-tech technology that is not even as expensive as some of the money being doled out for these things in manning these oil pipelines or national assets? Why do you think that is not in consideration?
Well, my thought is simple. Unfortunately, Tompolo's name is everywhere, as though he's the only person that is being given the money.
Yep. And it's not correct, right?
Right. So you should know it's a partnership deal with the people who are agreeing to doing that and the person who they are giving it. So whoever.
If I understand it, Tompolo is the front.
It's the front. It's the representation face. Okay. It's a face to the public. You know, peradventure because of his antecedents, because of his involvement in some of the things. So they just use him and as the person. But in terms of how does the pie, how do they share the cake? The people who share more from the cake are the people who are giving out the cake to whoever. But let me also go back. Technology today has gone beyond what we are talking about. No person needs to be on the public. It also will not stop them from doling out some of the money that they are doling, except for their personal interest, the political front. Because one, if you put out a drone there are people who are also going to do some minor things, not against oil theft, but as a way of still engaging them. They could be given some like grass cutting, because somebody is going to do grass cutting, the drone will not do anything to you. The alarm will not go off. The alarm goes off only when you begin to go beyond grass cutting or certain other things. So you just need to know that application of technology cannot be overemphasized.
So why do you think the government of Nigeria is not pushing this forward? And we're still talking about renewing a contract, and considering the background of where we started off from initially, where we said this is looking like a bit of a mess, like we're going back to give us our
One,
the government.
Tompolo is from Niger Delta. Tompolo has an antecedent in the past that when this thing was given to him, Tompolo is not a spirit. Tompolo is not a drone. Tompolo is not an invisible being. He can be everywhere. Only God can be everywhere. Okay? At the moment. What he does is deploy human beings who he also pays. He doesn't take the money to himself, as long as I'm concerned. He pays this money. That's why the agitation is that some of the people are now saying no to the renewal, because for me, I see it as a renewal of the contractual agreement that has been in the past. People are saying no. These ones that are saying you can't agitate are saying that these people have been beneficiaries of the same contract. Okay? However, the people who are agitating are saying we don't want it to be given to only Tantita. Let it be shared amongst different names that we are bearing now. Okay? And if you share it that way, it will be in percentage. Even though you give Tompoli greater percentage, break the other percentage to some.
All right, let me just come in a little bit here. You know, going back to when the Ministry of Niger Delta was actually set up, and you know, now we're talking about the issue of pipeline surveillance contract and all that. So, you know, this actually is beginning to look like a serious business. It's really, you know, looking like...
It's not looking like...
It's actually a huge business, you know, All right, so the Nigerian government, at least we have the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
gets that they will act on, they will work. And depending on what the security feeds. So, in this case, if the security is part of the deal, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can do nothing. So the only thing we can do at this point, which no person will want to do a referendum or go to community or town hall meetings to get facts from on ground what's really happening, okay, which is what Yaradua did when he was alive. When he was alive, that was how some of us came in. When they came into town, it was a lady, Biba Don Pedro, who, when she heard they were in town and she told them, look, this thing cannot work well. There is somebody, I need to be part of it. They say, who is it? He said, one reverend. And when I got there, I mean, for me, I didn't want to be part of it because I worked with, you know, the police, I worked with the DSS, I worked with a few of them. And at the point, I saw that we are not sincere to ourselves. We're just playing games. So if I'm going to advise the government, do a bottom-top approach engagement. What do I mean? Not the top-bottom. What we need is the top-bottom. We'll get from the leaders, we'll go down. Even in the UN, in the United Nations, at the point they were dealing with nations, they were dealing with, they were localizing things, and they saw that localizing it was not working based on top-bottom approach. There was a change of approach, bottom-top. If this government wants to actually get this thing right and get it done, and then rest from a shortfall in barrels of oil that is going or that is doing that, let there be a bottom-top approach. What do I mean by that? Dispatch a system. When you talk about Niger Delta Ministry, you remember there was Niger Delta Development Commission before Niger Delta Ministry. All these things are political. They are political game to reduce and confuse the masses on how the money is being shared. Because the more you split the controlling arm, the more you confuse the masses not to know where the money is, because now budget is being divided, being split into. So NDDC will now have like what they were having, 40% of it. Then Niger Delta will have 60% of it, and keep going the same thing, the same circle, vicious circle, and all that and share. No, if President and his team wants to get this done, let there be a bottom-top approach. I give you an instance. Sorry, when the governor of Rivers State, then Governor Rotimi Amechi, when when he came on board, he wanted to deal with this. He dealt with it. I was part of it. The Ashore led what's it called? The Truth and Reconciliation. I was part of it. Chima Bombs, who was Barrister Chima Bombs, I worked with him. And most of the things, they got it. Why? Because it was bottom top. They didn't just call people to say and begin to share money. No. They came deliberately and reached out to the grassroots. People came and said a few things, and that eventually propelled the government to begin to, even though it did not continue. The continuation came down to SDI. So if the government will do something that will really work, then there has to be an intentional and deliberate engagement at the bottom. You will compensate the leaders, you will compensate the top, but let there be deliberate engagement at the bottom so that you get the real facts. And once you get the real facts, all this we're talking, even the Tompodo we're talking about, cannot work by himself. There are people who are doing the work. Let's get to the people.
Okay, so let's have this up from the angle of investing in technology, like this group talked about. How much of this do you think will quell this agitation, recent agitation for racial share, give us our share kind of thing? How much of the investment into technology and getting an expertise company that are into artificial intelligence and security, for instance, to man this pipeline, how much of this do you think it will quell this agitation that is rising right now? And what would you advise? How would you advise the government to approach using technology to ensure that such pipelines are genuinely protected beyond political interests?
Yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing is that we're in a system that don't protect itself, unfortunately. Now, if you go back to Burkina Faso, the current president, the young man, what did he employ? It was the use of drones. Had a partnership with Russia, and they went on and they have a drone. Terrorism was reduced to nothing. Because one, the drone is programmed in such a way that it does not miss target. It doesn't miss target. Unfortunately,
this has nothing to do with the pipelines itself. It has to do with the corporate entities.
It has to do with the corporate entity. If the corporate entity is sincere to itself or to herself, then it's go sleep. Now, how is it going to quell this agitation? The agitation will no more be pipeline vandalization. It will now be surveillance in terms of grass cutting, keeping the environment, keeping away people from entering into, because there's a lot of encroachment into those areas. Go to Rupoku, go to a few areas where you have the pipeline go through. There's an espace of land that you don't encroach in. That is work in it. Instead of exposing them, because they die by the day. There's the other part who are in it.
So are we at the point, because of our time, you just touched a nerve when you raise the issue of the death or the number of young persons would lose in that is not being talked about. I understand that. Looking at all of this right now, whether for or against the agitations, are we at the point where we can now begin to say, Nigerian government, there is need for the presidential amnesty to be retooled and begin to consider technological growth and development for the Niger Delta ex-militant or agitators, like reworking the format for what the program has been all along?
Well, let me take you back a little. When we finished the disarmament stage, we were trying to do an evaluation of what we've done. I proposed something. Part of my proposal was, because as at then, most of the young people were saying we want to be welders. I was in their operations manager in the US. And he spoke to me, said, look, this is what we can do. We get in, they call it a 100-stop station to train young people. It has the capacity to train about between 6 and 500 to 600 people. And they will be productive on their own. They will produce things. These doors, we talk about China doors and all that. Why do we need to go to China? Today, that's what we're doing now. That's what we get here now. That's what we wanted to do as at that time. You don't need to send the money you're using to send these boys to Dubai, send them to here, send them to here. It's not real because one, when these boys go there, most of the boys who went out did not complete their training because of payment. And they were repatriated. Yeah. They were sent back. I know a few. Okay, so if we are saying at this stage that we are really ready to do that, let's get back to the original list, even though I know that 40 to 60% of the young people who actually got engaged in that thing wouldn't have been anymore now. So let's say we're working with 40%, 30-40% of the people who were there. If the 30-40% of the people who are still alive are engaged meaningfully, you can deploy drone. They will even encourage you to deploy drone because it will make it easier. Because if they see a way that this thing is working, I mean, why not? Secondly, is this, sir. Why are you going to say you won't give these boys these things when, okay, look at the agitation going on now. The house wants SUVs, every one of them. And this thing is on the pages of the newspaper, and these people are reading it. You're doing nothing, sitting down somewhere, and that is not being discussed. Thank God for Sarah, who is going to court. But for me, how much is it going to go? Will they stop them? It will not. So the first thing we need to do is the people who are the big wigs, who are getting it. Let's not look at Tompolo, the agitations that is there, all the agitations that is coming up. All they are looking for is which one comes to us. If you give us our own, we'll relax.
Exactly. So if we fix the corporate entities who are running the oil ministry or what have you, we would have to a large extent corrected the anomaly at the waterfronts.
Sure. You know. Also, you don't train an elephant to climb a tree when you can pay the monkey. The thing we are doing is that there is a means to what we are looking for. All you need is that feed the elephant, pay the monkey to do the climbing the tree thing.
All right, we'll bring you back here. This is your forte, and thank you for dwelling properly, for being here, dwelling much on this, because we need this is a blowout. We're in the Atlantic, so we need to have this conversation. So thank you for dealing with that.
Thank you. Let's get to the next conversation. A former deputy spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress, Chief Yekini Nabena, says Ahmad Gumi's statement describing the FCTA minister as devil for meeting with Israeli ambassador coming from a prominent Islamic cleric is capable of causing disunity in Nigeria. Nabana, in a statement on Sunday, said, "My intervention in the recent controversial statement is not about the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, alone. It is about the rights of the Niger Delta people and the Southerners in general." He said, "At this stage, we expect all the voices of reason to speak out because the sense of entitlement of the likes of Sheikh Gumi is becoming more satanic. I will call on the presidency to deliberately caution Sheikh Gumi and his co-travelers against statements that are capable of causing disunity and encourage a sense of entitlement. I will also call on the security agencies to take Gumi's reckless but deliberate statement seriously. Sheikh Gumi should be arrested, questioned, and prosecuted." The former deputy APC spokesperson said the cleric should be held responsible if anything happens to the FCT minister. Also, Femi Fani Kayode, a former minister of aviation, asked the security agencies to call Gumi to order. "We want peace in this country, and I call on the government, the DSS, police, and all the security agencies and the president, Bola Tinubu, to ensure that this man is called to order, that he is called, warned, he is arrested, and if necessary, prosecuted for incitement and an attempt to destabilize this country." This is well loaded. This is exactly what it should be. We have Sheikh Gumi really trying to do what is capable of causing a lot of trouble in the country. And this is someone that is a cleric. This is someone who should understand better. This is someone that his voice really goes a long way to quell or cause some trouble. So why should Sheikh really be towing this trend?
Well, you know, in security or in a conflict transformation, there's something we call force field analysis. Force field analysis is you try to analyze your environment to know the forces that are against and for. The voice you are hearing is a voice that is speaking from a confident point. Sheikh Gumi, as a cleric of the Islamic sect, is speaking for his sect. That's my thinking, because he has done this over time. You remember when the Boko Haram thing was there, it was. Now, the unfortunate thing is, should the security agencies be called upon to act hearing what he said? Peradventure, it was any other person who said it. They don't need anybody. The only thing we hear is that he's been invited to come and answer. Okay? They may target what do they call it? They may target inciting the masses or the public. As long as I'm concerned, he should be called to explain. Now, what is wrong in a minister of an environment who is able to do analysis of his environment and sees that, well, the porosity of the security within the environment, he needs to fortify it. And he gets a support from a system that he feels can help him build that up. And he has the resources. He's not asking you to give him the resources. He's not going to source for extra resources. He is within the same environment where he is saying, look, this environment must be safe. We must live and live well. We must not live with our eyes open. We need to live with our eyes closed. Therefore, let's import a reliable system that can keep us sleeping. It still boils down to what we are discussing about the militancy thing. If we're not sabotaging ourselves, why should this thing be a subject of discussion than invite Sheikh Gumi and sit him down and say, you made this statement, you made it. What's wrong in the FCT minister inviting the Israeli ambassador and discussing security of FCT, where most of the crimes presently is going on, and where most of the political personalities and the business people are living. The concern of the FCT minister who is doing whatever he's doing is not just about himself, it's about FCT. But adventure, if he wanted a personal security, he would have invited the man to his house, plan the things he wants to plan in his car. He has what it takes to do that. But he's saying, no, I'm in this environment. This is the territory I'm working. Now, I want to secure it in such a way that every person will go well. There won't be any security risk, people moving about. I don't understand what Gumi wants.
Well, I think you're not alone in that confusion, because several Nigerians are wondering what exactly does Sheikh Gumi want. But let's wrap up with this before we go on a short break. The Middle Belt Youth Forum says the recent attempt to blackmail the appeal panel for Imo State National State Assembly elections by Echezona Etiaba, a senior advocate of Nigeria, is the highest level of desperation to subvert the will of the people by stealing their mandate. In a press conference in Abuja addressed by the group's spokesperson, Solomon Gans, he said, in a show of desperation on the part of his sponsors, Odemba, the APC Southeast Zonal chairman, accused justices of the Court of Appeal of having received bribes and such allegations when he had not known them before and has no proof. Gama said, we have it on good authority. Now, this is a way orchestrated plan by Ozodimma, who is visibly afraid of the popularity and rising of some National Assembly members from Imo State and want them removed by the courts and have his minions enthroned the same way he rose to become a governor. Their plan is almost coming to fruition, though it will not work, because immediately after that perfectly acted drama, The innocent justices who denied spurious allegations went a step further to recuse themselves from the appeals of Imo State. He said, but we, like many other groups and people of conscience, urge the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongban-Benson, to make sure that those upright judges handle the case. We will ensure the judiciary is not cowed or blackmailed into paving the way for an individual known for always subverting justice to achieve his desperation. We equally watched how a cross-section of lawyers who were visibly angry at the turn of events berated Etiaba for using his status as senior advocate of Nigeria to present such allegation and defamatory petitions which led the justices to recuse themselves. So that this is enough. There's enough reason for PCA and, of course, disregard Etiaba's antics and that of his paymaster and deliver justice on the Imo National Assembly election appeals and not create room for Uzodinma to leverage on his desperation, which was realized at the ballot despite all the apparatus at his disposal. So we also call on the Legal Practitioner Privileges Committee to immediately look into this kind of unprofessional conduct. Etiaba cannot accuse a fellow son, Damian Dodo, of being in the matter when the records show that he said he was not involved in the matter. The APC lawyer's allegation should not go without proper investigation. The state of the judiciary in Nigeria, from the Supreme Court to the customary courts, if you may, and the perception that Nigerians now have of the judiciary, that we grew up to learn that is the last hope of the common man, and seeing such an embarrassment by a recognized senior lawyer, and now the being accused of doing the job of his paymasters, how low do you think we have gotten, and is there a way out for us when it comes to the judiciary?
Well, we are still hopeful that this country will come to a point where confidence will be restored again. You know, let me draw an analogy from what Jesus said. He said, you don't give holy things to dogs. Unfortunately, the hallowed profession, which is the legal profession, dogs had eventually crawled into it or are growing out of it. Most unfortunately, even the ones who are upright presently can't even do much. But my take is the people who are going to restore the dignity, who are going to restore the integrity of the judiciary and the legal system of this country still lies on the hands of the legal luminaries, the judges, the lawyers. I mean, to come to a point where conscience will play more than personal gains. And once we come to that point where conscience will play above personal gains, then we're beginning to get it right. If not, I want to reassure everybody that God has a plan for this country. And he won't continue to keep quiet as much as we are doing our part. Someday, he will vindicate us. He will do that, which only him can do.
I think I want to say amen to that.
Amen.
But we'll take a short break. When we come back, everyone, we have an interesting story that you don't want to miss. Nigeria's white witches, wizards, predict outcome of Google polls. We'll come back to you after the break.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
We're still on ATN Blowout. And now we have this conversation to deal with. The white witches and wizards of Nigeria have given their predictions on the outcome of the gubernatorial polls slated for November 11 in 3 states of the Federation. While speaking with journalists over the weekend in Lagos, the spokesperson of the group, Okwe Iboy, one Imo governor, Hope Uzodinma of the All Progressives Congress People's Democratic Party governorship candidate in Kogi, Dino Milaye, and the All Progressives Congress candidate in Bayelsa, Timi Silva, against losing their elections on November 11 if they fail to heed wise counsel. Iboy said, the fight will be between the candidates of the Labour Party, Atan Achonu, and the People's Democratic Party, Samuel Anyanwu, which is contrary to speculations that the incumbency factor will favor Governor Uzodinma. Oboy also charged security operatives to tighten security in the politically charged and volatile states to avert a bloodbath during the poll. Iboy said, when we met in the Coven to review the 3 off-cycle governorship elections, we examined all the political parties and their candidates and their chances of winning the election. We noticed that Uzodinma is terribly hated by his people. Also remember that he is governor not by popular will, but by legal technicalities of the Supreme Court. Is this supposed to sound some kind of scary or some kind of alarming? Or are we actually beginning to legalize what the white witches and wizards say? Because it seems like they actually have a say. And they have a say because for this to be published, it means that at some point in time, what they've predicted actually turned out to be true. So I don't understand what we're supposed to make out of this. I pass it to you, Reverend, to give us the directive from here.
Well, unfortunately, a boy who is the head, I don't know if he resides in Lagos or whatever, but it's good to also let him know that this country is God's own country, number 1. Number 2, I'm not, it's not moving me looking at the statement they are making. They made the same statement when the president came on board that they went to Abuja to do whatsoever. It's a wake-up call, as long as I'm concerned, for the citizenry, and especially kingdom citizens, men of God and servants of God and the church, who I represent, and the God who I to know that we need to wake up. Number 2 is, I wish it would be a thing that a boy and his team will. I'm not a witch, so I don't know how they manage to get all their informations. Yes, he said in their coven. But it's important to let him know that God owns this country. And I pray he should live to see the election that he's talking about. Yeah, I pray he should live to see it. Yeah, if he will do. And number 2, I can't speak for the people who are contesting because I don't know them. If they are their members, though they didn't come out plainly to say they are speaking for their members. So they are making mere predictions. And it's also giving us an idea of how the nation is going down than what it used to be. For me, it's a wake-up call. For me, I don't feel, it's not funny. It's not funny.
When you say it's a wake-up call, Reverend, what actually do you...
What I mean is a wake-up call is that it tells me there is a spiritual dimension of this nation that we, the church, need to wake up to provide sanity, to provide that rather than cluster every Sunday and do some of the jamborees we do, there is a rising challenge that I believe God is allowing them to make these statements so that we will wake up we will wake up and know that we owe this country more than we think. Yeah.
All right, let me let me come in here. The Bible says, "Suffer not the witch to live." That's a clear, for Christians, it's clear. The Bible says, "Suffer not the witch to live." That's a clear injunction in the Old Testament. But we live in a time and age where we are being told we are under the Constitution of Nigeria, and what that entails in a nutshell is basically that we have to obey the laws of the land. And the laws of the land said there is religious tolerance. You're to respect where your rights begin is where the rights of another ends.
Sorry, ma, I want to say which is not a religion. Witches and witches is not a religion. Except you are showing me where it is.
It's a faith. It's a way of life. Like Christianity is the way of life. I want to believe. Okay, here's where I'm going to. I don't want to argue with you. I know you're the priest.
I'm not arguing with you. If you don't state facts, if you don't state things clear.
Okay, let me just digest my question. So now, so in a society, we have agreed that Nigeria is a secular state, but with freedom of religion or freedom of faith, if you may. Now that we have this conjecture, the Bible already says, "Suffer not a witch to live." And now, by nature of the average, whether it's Christian or Muslims, they don't agree to witches or whatever they represent. But both the Christian Bible and the Quran, or even the Torah, if you're using that as a matter of fact. So now that we are here in this circle where you have to respect their faith or their oppressions of faith or religion, or whatever they want to call it, and that they also have to respect that of the Christians or Muslims, as the case may be. Are we at a point where we need to now begin to question how we actually got here, where some of these elements can now audaciously speak before everyone and that's supposed to be okay? He was saying he doesn't know how that got published. I don't know how it got published, but it's in the news.
No, it got published because the publishers want news to publish. And peradventure, the publisher could be part of them.
Well,
Okay, so for me, Ibo is not here. If he were to be here, we would have known whether he has a faith. But I don't know where he is. Just as I said, I pray he sees that day of the election that he is trying to predict. I pray he sees the 11th of November.
Is that not being rather kind of too extreme?
Well, depending on what you mean by extremity. Who is a witch? A witch is a man who lives by killing people. What's witchcraft? Witchcraft is imposing evil on people. That's simply what it is.
So let's get it from the angle of wizardry. There are people who are called wizards, like Janus.
Okay.
Genesis, people who are exceptional. They say, okay, this person is a wizard in technology, for instance, a wizard in communication, a wizard in which is basically this person is an exceptional person in a given field. From that angle, there's white witches. It's also part of it. I don't know.
That's a use, excuse me, that's a use of language to qualify an act. This is not the use of language. This is, you said it's a faith.
Yeah, that's what it comes across, because he said they meet in their coven.
That's what I'm telling you. So what do you do in the coven?
You determine people's future and destinies,
right. And
they're determining that of
that's right. Who gave them? For me, I don't want to discuss. There are things I don't discuss.
All right.
I discuss them. If a boy was here, we would have known what gave him the impetus. Constitution is to the extent we can argue it and bring it to bear in this country. What you say is in the pages of constitution goes to court. That's why the judiciary. And you argue it in favor or against until you come to a logical conclusion by a court of competent judiciary.
Okay, so let's just leave white.
So let's leave that. We're talking about faith. We're not talking about constitution.
Yeah, let's just leave
them. That's a very sensitive matter.
All right. So, the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project have urged the Federal Action for an injunction filed by the civil society organization. Now, you recall that the National Assembly, in the phased process of procuring and distributing operational vehicles to the 360 members of the House, valued at 57.6 billion naira in the coming weeks and months. On its part, Sarah filed an application seeking an order of interim injunction restraining the National Assembly from procuring, taking delivery, and distributing the SUVs to their members, pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice for an order of interlocutory injunction filed simultaneously in this suit. Serap said it is seeking such further orders that the Honorable Court may deem fit to making the circumstances of this suit. Said you would recall that Serap had in August filed a suit before the Federal High Court challenging the legality of the spending of billions of representatives and stop members from taking delivery of 360 sports utility vehicles pending the hearing and determination of the application for interim injunction. Well, in the letter dated October 24, 2023 and signed by Serap Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, they urged President Bola Tinubu to put pressure on the leadership of the Senate and stop members from taking delivery of the planned procurement of bulletproof SUVs pending the hearing and determination of their application in court. Now, 57.3 billion naira for 360 individuals in a country where you just stopped fuel subsidy.
57.6.
57.6, well, 57.6 billion, yeah. You just stopped fuel subsidy that you're paying trillions in. And now for each state of the Federation, the 36 states, we're giving them 2 billion. We're talking about millions of individuals. You're giving 2 billion each. You budgeted for 5 billion, but you've been able to give 2 billion because you said you can't release all as it will affect the economy and all of that. That's fine. So you're releasing 2 billion, and then for one individual who is coming from some of this constituency, he or she is getting a vehicle, an SUV, and the total of it is going to amount to 57.6 billion. Let's have a reality check. Are we running a country? Or is this some kind of tomfoolery that we don't want to admit that it is?
Well, you know, it's annoying. It's annoying when you know what people are going through in this country. And then you read these things on the pages of newspaper. This still takes us back to what we were discussing about the Tantita thing, the militia. Do you know why the House of Representatives cannot speak against this? Against the Tompolo contract? Is this a utility? This is not money. This is not money. This is not like there is a thing they are doing. What do you do with your salary and the provisions they've made for you? So, as long as I'm concerned, God will not continue to keep silence. As much as for today, part of my drive is to bring to the awareness of people who've left politics in the hands of oppressed people who eventually are given power now. You know, the most dangerous thing you can do is to give power to an oppressed person. It will only reveal oppression. So what we are seeing today is revealed oppression by reason of position and power for their personal gains, and that their children are not even will not even benefit from.
All right, you know, this is really, sometimes people cry in their hearts, they don't show the tears outwardly, you understand, because this is actually a serious pain in the hearts of the masses, okay, Nigerians, but you may not really actually see it. But the thing is, how far can we go with all of this, this is to the extreme, you know, when it concerns the economy of this country. How far can Nigeria actually continue with this, you know, because we have a lot of resources in this country, but it seems to be wrongly diverted. When we talk about 57.6 billion naira, that, like you said, it's just mere utilities. Then is it not possible for Nigeria to have a kind of government that will really look into this and amend some of these things that afford this luxury to the National Assembly members and all of that? Is it not possible for Nigeria to begin to look into this so that we will be able to actually have more that can benefit the citizens?
You know, my brother, let me let you know. You know, it's more difficult to manage freedom. People prefer to be oppressed And that's why they are thriving on the pains that Nigerians are going through because of the oppression we are in. And they are oppressing us the more. I mean, if you now, what we are looking for now are people who are really free. There's something Jesus said. He said, if the Son of Man set you free, you are free indeed. Freedom is costly. The challenge we have today, as I talk to you, is that the people who are in government. Now, let me ask you a question. What are you going to do with 10 vehicles at your personal disposal that is your own? 10. 6 vehicles. 7 vehicles. Not a company vehicle. If you run a company, that's okay. It's a different thing. But you have 5 SUVs. When you wake up in the morning and in your neighborhood, as you drive on the street, so that tells you that the person is already oppressed, not even the people who are dying. So the danger that we are facing and will yet face is until there's a freedom in the heart of people. What do I mean by that? Where money is not everything. Who will change the policy? Is it the people who are signing 57.6 billion should be used for just mere utility? You're not talking about any other thing. I want to thank God for Sarah for what they are doing. For always, in that intervention, that intervention, and keep doing it. That intervention and keep doing that. Okay? So I appreciate them for that. But for you to talk about change, the change will only come when people like you begin to hear, begin to know the truth, and stay with the truth. And irrespective of the wind that is coming against you for the truth, you stand for it until you see it come to fruition.
The big question then is, how do you stand up for the truth when, if you're standing for what you think is the truth, you're being attacked? Let's take a look at this particular conversation to wrap up the show. So the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum condemns the Bishop Emeritus of Abuja, Cardinal John Onayinka, over his comments on Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, of misleading Nigerians and not being honest in the conduct of the 2023 elections. So the AYCF, in a statement by its president, Shatima Yarima, said, true men of God are expected to preach salvation and not preach selective partisanship behind the garb of religion, as is the case with Onayinka. Rather than hiding behind the garb of religion to play politics, Onayinka should leave the pulpit for genuine men of God and pursue his partisanship. It is unjust and unfair to accuse Yakubu of any wrongdoing, as he went to great lengths to ensure that the exercise was the most transparent and credible in Nigeria's history. You were just talking about Reverend to stand by the truth and the need to do all of that. This is a renowned priest. What did he say? In his opinion.
In our opinion.
Okay, let's just use his own first.
I'm part of it. That's why I say our, myself and him.
Okay, I'm coming to you. Okay. So he said, he made a statement, and he is, as a citizen that we believe should have a right to make a statement, said, Professor Mahmood Yakub was not sincere and genuine to Nigeria. A quick recall on how all of this got to this point. You were in Chatham House and several other platforms that the videos are replete anyway, saying that the Beavers is a game changer. Particularly on the presidential election, you abandoned the use of Beavers because that is what the presidential tribunal courts made us to understand. Look at all the cases that have come out. Let's go to Kano State. How did INEC model up 160-something thousand votes? That is why Kano, part of the crisis they had recently where the tribunal judged that everything that went wrong in this election went wrong based on INEC's inability to have delivered to Nigerians as expected. And a man of God, a human, a Nigerian, an elder statesman, if you may, stands up to say, I don't agree with this, what INEC did. And he's been attacked by a group saying that INEC chairman did nothing wrong. I leave that to your desk.
You don't argue with ignorance. Now, what do I say? Shetima was talking to Naiko without understanding what salvation is, the preaching of salvation. This is the true preaching of salvation. Salvation goes beyond human being. When Jesus came, he said, I have come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. That is salvation. That is the whole thing. So his argument or his agitation against Onaikon's disposition to Yakubu is born out of ignorance, because he does not really understand what the message of salvation embodies. However, we all know, I'm not including you, myself and my family, except you're part of that, we all know that INEC goofed. That's why today the judiciary is struggling to recover integrity, dignity, and that hallowedness of the chain humans, which I'm sure they will all pay for what we've done. That's something the Bible says. It said, we don't need to be mocked. We don't need to think God is mocked. Why? For whatsoever we sow, we shall reap, whether it be good or evil. So as long as I'm concerned, Yakubu goofed. He did whatever. We are still looking up to Supreme Court, what they are going to say. The first court of instance in political, in election issues have done their own. We're looking at what the final arbiter is going to say. Whatever they say will eventually paint the true picture of the judiciary to Nigerians. But in terms of what Shetima is saying, Shetima is speaking out of ignorance. I don't want to engage with him in any way. He can continue to say that, but he doesn't talk on Icon for making his position, just like I'm making mine today, state and these other states, to do the same thing.
Have you noticed the
yes,
Mahmoud comes to say no, he disregard whatever Ifanga said, we're going to use that. Have you seen the drama, the one in Kogi State, where the SDP man came out to say, hey, they are configuring the beavers. Now, Mahmoud comes to say, this man is taking care of his family. The people they mentioned, one is retired, one is taking care of the family, the other one is, where I can't remember now, but have you seen the intrigues playing out with the beavers and it's out what they are going to be using in a few weeks' time? Is it few weeks? Yeah, in about 2
if
weeks.
Shetima is speaking the way, it means Shetima is not in Nigeria. He doesn't know, he's not abreast with the true, that's why I say he's speaking from the point of ignorance. So you don't argue with an ignorant man. An ignorant man can say anything. People are destroyed for lack of knowledge, for ignorance. So if you begin to engage with an ignorant man, you become ignorant. Leave him. But the truth is that what Onaiko has said is implicitly, explicitly clear, and every sane Nigerian knows that the change is coming. The change is coming. I want to reiterate it. I want to speak it again. The change is coming. We are all fighting for it. If we don't expect, our children will see it. But for me, I'm optimistic. I'm still trusting that what God has said concerning this country is going to bring it to fruition.
Amen.
I want to say a very big thank you to you. It's always a refreshing moment with you on ATM Blowout, because you're a good blowout material, by the way. So thank you for being part of ATM Blowout today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, Reverend Humphrey Nsirim, he was here this morning as a public affairs analyst, but he's a community leader. He's an integration expert and, of course, a priest in Christendom. But now, that's much we will do with him. We need to run. Well, in case you missed any part of the conversation on ATM Blowout, we got you covered. All you need to do is sit back, just get to our website, our Facebook or YouTube pages, or get to the app. You can get all the details of what we discussed on the show today. So do well to watch us live on this platform on Atlantic Television Network.tv. There's our website. On there, you can download our app, ATN Live, and of course, watch from anywhere in the world. You can also do well to watch us live on Facebook and YouTube, and do share, like, comment, and share with friends. Of course, Atlantic Television Network on YouTube and Facebook, and on Instagram and TikTok, we're Atlantic TV Network 1. On X, we're Atlantic TV Net. So do remember, the peace and unity remains the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your day.